Welcome to Competitive Crunch. This is a show which is not quite bite-sized, hence the crunch. It is more powerful and super effective. My name is Spade, I am your host, and today on Competitive Crunch we are going to be talking about new items of Pokémon X and Y, and more specifically the held items. So we're gonna figure out which one of them are good, which one of them are bad. And in total, in Pokemon X and Y, there are 62, at this moment at least. There are 62 new items, and if we minus all the Megastones out of that list, because you could, well, technically they are separate stones, but in practice, you know, they all do the one and the same thing, which is just Mega Evolve their specific Pokemon in question. So if we minus all of them, those Megastones out of that list, we are left with 34 new items. And then if we go further, we minus all the key items, fossils, some evolutionary items, some random mulches, which are useful though for getting all those berry mutations and getting all those berries, because some of the berries are really useful in competitive gameplay, but those mulches themselves cannot be held, or you can use them, you can have Pokemon hold them, I guess, but they don't do anything. So if we cut all that crap away, out of 62 new items that we have, we are left with 12 new items, and those are the ones that we are going to be looking at today. Plus, I would like to briefly talk about the Megastones, because, you know, they are still held items, and definitely the biggest impact held items that we have in this generation. But I am, however, going to make a separate episode on Mega Evolutions themselves. Although at this point I'm really sure if should I just kind of just skim through all of them. Like at the moment there are 28 new Mega Evolutions. So should I just skim through all of them, or should I make specific episodes on each one of them separately? I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, going through them separately, because I kind of fear I have too much to say about each one of them. So I think one episode would just drag on for like 2 or 3 hours, so that might be bad. At least going at the rate at the things which are going right now, as I'm not making any sense. So I should probably cut to the point now that I have cut through all the random crap. And yeah, so however, I'm gonna be starting briefly with those Megastones. So with that being said, there are 13 items that I'm going to be going through, including those Megastones. So basically, after Mega Evolving, Megastones, they don't do anything else, and the point here being that Mega Pokemon cannot be holding any other items. So when you look at Mega Garchomp, it has humongous attack, and I think I got also a nice buff in its special attack and some good defensive bulks too. But the point being, it cannot be holding any other item besides that Garchomp bite, or whatever the stone is used to evolve Mega Garchomp, Mega Evolve it. And so it cannot be choice scarfed, it cannot be choice banded, it cannot be life formed. So that right there is a huge impact, because when you see a Mega Evolution, you know that it cannot have any hold item, which means that, you know, the speculation has been like, oh, some of the Mega Evolutions broken, and some of them might be, you know, everything is still new, we don't have any tiers to go by right now. But one thing is for certain, that they cannot be holding any further boosting items, as their, you know, I guess technically pre-evolutions can. So let's say Mega Gengar, it has that humongous 100 and is it 170 base special attack? That's huge! But it cannot further boost it with Life Orb or Choice Specs, or Life Orb mainly is the main item you would want to have on it. But Mega Gengar cannot do that, because they cannot be holding any other items, thus making them somewhat more predictable as opposed to their pre-evolutions. Because when you see a Mega Gengar, at least you know you can outspeed it with a Pokemon that is naturally faster than it, or with a Choice Scarf user, which reaches a speed level higher than 130, which would be Gengar's base speed. So that's pretty much the point that I want to make about Megastones as health items, which makes the Mega Evolutions somewhat more predictable. But of course they are freaking powerhouses, freaks of nature. Some of them have just over the top special attack, and all the stats of them are kind of over the top. But they cannot have those items, which makes them easier to play around, because you kind of know you cannot run too many sets without having all those useful items, such as Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Specs, Life Orb, Leftovers. And that's and speaking of leftovers, because there are some bulky Mega Evolutions, such as, let's say, Mega Venusaur. It gained some bulk, it got Thick Fat ability, which is really nice for it, but it cannot be holding leftovers, which it would really appreciate it, but it cannot have that, so that kind of blows for it. So yeah, that being the point about the Mega Evolution stones that I wanted to make, so that they cannot be holding any other items. As useful as they are, you know, they are still restricted by, you know, the irony of gaining this boost is that, you know, they cannot be holding any other items, which would make a significant difference. But that is all that I wanted to say about the Megastones. I could go more deeply into this matter, but I want to save it for the Mega Evolution episode or episodes in the future. So, now, getting to the real meat and the list of the new health items that we got here, starting with Ability Capsule. And the official description says that this is a capsule that allows a Pokemon with 2 abilities switch between these abilities when it is used. And you can buy this from the Battle Mason for 200 battle points. And in my opinion, at least at the beginning, when I was starting things off, it kind of feels like an overkill. 200 battle points for one-time use to change one Pokemon's ability. And going more deeply into this ability capsule, it will not work on hidden abilities. So, for example, I was IV breeding some fletchlings with Gale Wings, and I happened to get myself a really good fletchling with max speed, max attacks, and then I think a couple other stats were really good too. But the problem was it had big pecs, so I have no way to change that, and even the ability capsule would not work because Gale Wings is the hidden ability. So that right there sucks a lot. But then again, that I guess it's made so that you cannot have some I don't know if there are some attack combinations that you cannot have with hidden abilities, so that's kind of a restriction with it. But it just kind of sucks that you can only switch between 2 standard abilities. And I believe it doesn't work if the Pokemon has the hidden ability. And it also doesn't work if the Pokemon has obviously only one ability, one standard ability. So that's the thing too. But yeah, what really sucks is that, yeah, it doesn't work if you want to get, let's say you have a Dragonite or a Dragonair with, yeah, let's just go with Dragonite. You have Dragonite with Inner Focus, you want to get multi-scale, won't be working. So at least keep this in mind before you waste 200 battle points, which you could be using to get like 4 choice items. Yeah, and still leave with like you would have like, yeah, you would still have like 8 battle points left to get something different. So just think about that before you go using ability capsule. Also, on some instances, like it might be nice to switch those abilities around. If you are IV breeding and you have a really good specimen, you have a really good baby with perfect IVs but the wrong ability, and if you are able to switch around these abilities, you may get it. And especially once you get further in the Battle Mason, you will get more points, and therefore you possibly could afford getting one ability capsule if you really are desperate for one, if you really don't want to do more breeding, if you got that one perfect baby Pokemon. But otherwise, it's kind of just a stretch. I'm not really pleasantly surprised by at least the fact that it doesn't work on hidden abilities. Otherwise, yes, I would go for 200 battle points. I think it would have been nice, especially with that fledgling I had, but at this time I'm not really interested in this item. And then we move on. And the next item on this list would be Assault Vest. And this is an item held by a Pokemon. This offensive vest raises the special defense, but prevents the use of status moves. Now, I don't really know about this item. At first it seemed kind of like nice, because yeah, you get more special defense, but yeah, this is kind of a double-edged sword. It's kind of fighting across its own use. It gives you more special defense, so you would naturally want to have it on some bulky Pokemon. But if you're using defensive Pokemon, they are going to be using support moves. But you cannot use support moves with this item, so what is the point? There really isn't one. And, you know, you cannot even use this item to cripple opponents. On paper it seems like, awesome, I can trick this to some defensive Pokemon, but you cannot use Trick with this item. Except, like, I guess one Pokemon that could use it would be Lopunny with Klutz. But then again, you could be using something better altogether. But I guess in the lower tiers, you know, Assault Vest tricking, or switcherooing Lopunny may work. But, like, I guess few Pokemon that may make use of this might be, like, Heatran with its bunch of resistances that it still does have, even despite the nerf to steel types. You know, it could use this item. And then also, I guess, Tyranitar, but that means that they will not be able to have Stealth Rocks, which they would really appreciate. And other support moves, but mainly just Stealth Rocks that these Pokemon often carry. And with this item, they cannot have it. And Heatran kind of appreciates Balloon more, and T-Tar is usually seen with Leftovers. And that's the if you want to have a defensive Pokemon, usually just go with Leftovers. So yeah, kind of just a weird item that brings you this bulk. So you think it's better on defensive Pokemon, but then you cannot use status moves, support moves, or anything. So it kind of defeats the purpose of using it in the first place. And offensive Pokemon want to have a choice item or Life Orb or something along the sorts of an item that boosts your offensive capabilities. They don't want to have a special defense boosting item. So yeah, there might be some few situational uses for this item, but in general, kinda not the best item to have on your Pokemon. There are better items to have on defensive and offensive Pokemon. End of story for the Assault Vest. And then we move on. We got Kee Berry, and that's Kee Berry. So, if held by item, this berry will increase the Pokemon's defense when hit by a physical attack. And again, Leftovers, I would say, is kinda the better item here. Kinda situational if you're gonna be using this. If you want to maximize your bulk, you just want to have Leftovers. So I wouldn't really personally see much use for this Kee Berry at all. And I kind of went through everything in the Assault Vest, and kind of the same thing applies for this item as well. And also it's really situational, because you have to get hit by a physical attack first. And then you would really not like to have that Leftovers recovery there if you're using a wall. And, you know, yeah, the same point as kind of with the Assault Vest. So we can move on. We got next, Luminous Moss. An item held by Pokemon. It boosts the special defense if hit by a water type attack. And it can only be used once, much like with the berries. So, again, extremely situational, even more of a situational item, because you need to be specifically hit by a water type attack. So, yeah, again, extremely situational, probably not going to have much of a use. And then we got Maranga Berry, alright? If held by Pokemon, this berry will increase the Pokemon's special defense when hit by a special attack. So basically the opposite of the Kee Berry. And again, extremely situational. If you want to use a defensive Pokemon, or especially defensive Pokemon, just rather give that Pokemon leftovers instead of this item. Because one further point to make, when you switch out, the effect of this berry will be gone. So just think about that, as opposed to having leftovers giving you that delicious health every turn. Even when you switch out, it's still there. So yeah, so kind of situational, probably not gonna have too big of an use. And then we got Roseli Berry, and when Pokemon holds this item, it will cut down the damage taken by super effective fairy type attacks. And I think everybody is used to Yachi Berry and Pasho Berry. I think Pasho Berry is for the water type attacks, Yachi Berry for the ice type attacks, and so this is another berry in that series, and it could definitely be used, but we'll just have to see how the metagame works. Like, for example, I guess it could work on Swords Dance and Garchomp, although a lot of people are now just using the Megastone, and just, you know, choice items work on Garchomp really well, and Life Orb too, if you wanna have some revenge killing or sweeping potential on it. But like in the past, Yachi Berry Garchomp has been really popular, so now you could, I guess, potentially use a Roseli Berry Garchomp. So you Swords Dance on the Switch, and you Swords Dance, or you can Swords Dance on a fairy Pokemon such as, let's say, Sylveon. You take that Moonblast with the Roseli Berry, you get up Swords Dance, you destroy it with Earthquake, and you proceed to sweep. So on those kind of instances, it could be a nice item, and it could potentially be, but you know, Garchomp is just one example. I could have more, but that's the one that's on top of my mind. But you can figure out yourself, and once we just establish a meta game, we're gonna see what fairy types are actually used. So would there be a Pokemon that would really appreciate taking one fairy type move that it couldn't otherwise take, and then set up further and then proceed to sweep? That could be a possibility. Garchomp just one example, but definitely out of the items that I've gone through so far, it's one of the most useful one. And then we have Pixie Plate, which means Arceus can turn into a fairy type, and that is probably the biggest impact that the Pixie Plate is going to have. But having a fairy type Arceus in the Ubers where there are a bunch of dragons around, that is definitely going to make a huge impact over there. And you could have a Calm Minding fairy type sweeper Arceus with fairy type Judgment, and then what would you have for coverage? I don't really know. I don't really play Ubers that much, and I don't really want to start speculating on Arceus Fairy at this time, but that is definitely the biggest impact Fairy Plate is going to have. I don't really know about any other fairy types or any other Pokemon for that matter that could be holding it, because usually you just prefer like Life Orb. But you know, it's the kind of situation. There are a few Pokemon that could have one of those plates, like Victini, for example, on some instances, I believe. I think it's a decent item, like on a Trick Room Sweeper Victini. Like you want, because Victini has that good natural bulk. So you don't necessarily want to have Life Orb with that, so you could use Fire Plate instead. But now thinking about which fairy Pokemon like does have like decent sweeping potential and doesn't necessarily appreciate Life Orb, but Fairy Plate might work. Honestly, I can't really think of one. Like, I don't know. Like Sylveon, could that use like Fairy Plate? Like Sylveon is pretty slow, so I don't think it's gonna be doing any sweeping anytime soon. And then Azumarill is usually better off with like Choice Band anyways. And well, I guess Azumarill would make like a decent user if you wanna have a boost for Play Rough, but like that's about it. But still, like Azumarill is better off with Choice Band, or I guess even lefties with Sub Punch and stuff like that. So, or if you want to play it gimmicky, there's always the Belly Drum one, which is now decent. But yeah, that's not really going kind of besides the point here, but Arceus Fairy, definitely the biggest carrier of the Fairy Plates, and it's gonna be definitely interesting to see how that thing operates in Ubers. I'm sure Tony Flygon will know more of this on this topic, and I'll possibly have to ask him sometime. I'm sure he has some interesting ideas with Arceus Fairy, but dragons everywhere in Ubers, Arceus Fairy being immune to dragons, that's definitely gonna have a big impact in the Ubers. And then next on the list we got something relatively useful, safety goggles. This is an item held by Pokémon, and these goggles, they protect the holder from both weather-related damage and powder. So this is basically like a held overcoat. We went through that in the previous episode, and the overcoat now protects you from weather damage and powder damage, such as Stun Spore, and Sleep Powder. Moves like that, so you could have it on your Pokemon to prevent it from going to sleep. So this item could definitely have some use, but again, this is an item that would be better on some defensive Pokemon, but they just really appreciate having that leftovers to further boost their bulk. They don't want to lose leftovers recovery over some random item, especially now that weather has been nerfed. Hail and sand will only be lasting for 5 turns or 8 if you have the respective rocks to have that weather Pokemon holding. So weather has been nerfed, so it's not necessarily that big of an issue, and also the powder moves have been kind of nerfed because grass type Pokemon don't take anything from powder type moves. They are immune to Spore and Stun Spore and stuff like that. So I think you're better off just again having some sort of let's say bulky Pokemon with leftovers, then another supporter which would be grass type. But on some instances, like you could you know, kind of bluff your opponent and be like, hey, oh no, you're gonna put me to sleep, but then it turns out you got, let's talk about guard jump again. Somebody sends out, let's say, Fogisash Breloom, and it tries to put you to sleep, but you have the safety goggles, so you're able to set up with Swords Dance. But that would be again one extremely situational situation to be in. But like I guess on some situations it might work. But I think again if you're using defensive Pokemon, again you're better off with leftovers. If you're using offensive Pokemon, you're better off with some sort of attack boosting item, such as Life Orb or some sort of Lychee Berry or something like along the lines of that. So kind of a situational item, but it may have its uses, and it's kind of nice to have basically overcoat ability as an item. So it may have its useful, but this is definitely one of the better items that Generation 6 has to offer so far. So yeah, it may have its uses, and then we move on to Snowball, and this is an item held by Pokemon, and it will boost your attack by 1 stage if hit by an ice type attack. Now if we talk about guard jump yet again, I think it would be just better off with Yahtzee Berry and Swords Dance. So honestly, I cannot see much use for this, especially because it's one-time use. So I think you're better off, you know, again with Yahtzee Berry and just Swords Dance if you go with guard jump. But yeah, you have to get specifically hit by an ice type attack in order to get the boost. So extremely situational, and there are better boosting items to have, like Life Orb, for example, or choice items, or this next item I'm going to be talking about. And this is the last one on the list of 12 items that I'm talking about today, and that is Weakness Policy. And arguably, out of all the items in Generation 6, all the new ones, this is the most useful one. And this Weakness Policy is an item held by Pokemon, and it boosts the attack and special attack sharply by the user when it gets hit by a move it is weak to. And this brings a lot of possibilities. So you get hit by a super effective move and your attack and special attack get increased by 2 stages. That is same as using Sword Stance and Nasty Plot. So definitely the best user of this item is multi-scale Dragonite. That is what everybody is talking about. Because with multi-scale you can practically take any super effective hit. And then you get instantly +2. But you gotta remember it's only one-time use. But Dragonite could definitely make use of it with its multi-scale ability. And then some other Pokemon, possibly Aegislash, because it has that good natural bulk, although it would kind of appreciate leftovers, but weakness policy giving you +2, then you go for a Sword Stance and then you just start Shadow Sneaking everything to oblivion. It might be a decent item on that. And perhaps some sturdy sweepers. If there are some sweepers with sturdy ability, like, well, most of them are just in the lower tiers, like Crustle and Caracalosta. Both of them have access to Shell Smash. And then, I guess Aggron too, although Aggron gets a Mega Evolution, so you may just want to be going with that. But like, Aggron with Rock Polish or Auto Demise, both are kind of the same thing. So you could have Aggron Sweep with that, and those Crustle and Caracosta with sturdy living one hits going for the Shell Smash and having enormous attack to go with. And Caracosta also has access to Aqua Jet, so you could still bypass the speed problem. It kind of still has, but imagine a Rain team with Politoed. You have Damp Rock, then you have sturdy Caracosta. With, oh wait, it wouldn't work because I'm thinking about using Swift Swim. My bad, that wouldn't work at all. But still, like, Rain Boost would definitely help it out because you could have that Aqua Jet in the rain, and then you would have the ability to bypass the speed problem that Caracosta still has, because it's not the fastest thing even after the speed boost from Shell Smash. So there's that, but you definitely want to have like spin support or defog support. That's going to be something I would like to talk about later on. Defog has been buffed in this generation, and it will remove hazards from both sides of the field. And yeah, you definitely don't want to have hazard support, especially for multi-scale Dragonite. You want to have those rocks away, so you are guaranteed to have that multi-scale. Then you can set up like Dragon Dance, and then you get hit by Ice Beam, which has been decreased in power in this generation too. Then you live that hit easily, you get +2, you proceed to destroy everything. You could even have like extreme speed, because Dragonite is still not the fastest thing after one Dragon Dance. So you could have like extreme speed, outrage, EQ, and Dragon Dance, and then you're pretty much good to go, I would say. Or then some sort of other coverage move if you are feeling a bit more greedy and you think about getting more Dragon Dances to outspeed everything anyways, and then weakness policy. But that's an absolute overkill. But like, I guess even agility might work out decently, but I think coupled with Dragon Dance to get the speed and then one attack boost and then +2. And then you could go even mixed with Dragonite, because the weakness policy also gives you special attack boost, so that is a possibility right there. And I don't know if there are some, I guess Gliscor could work out decently because it has good natural bulk. It can live those ice punches pretty handily thanks to its natural bulk, but then again you would have to have a bulky spread on it, yet you want to have offensive spread because you're going to be boosting up. So I don't know, agility Gliscor. Now possibly it could do some baton passing, like you have agility, you live a hit, you get weakness policy, you pass that to your real sweeper and go from there. I don't know if this thing could be used with baton pass. Kind of sounds situational, but then again baton pass is extremely situational and gimmicky. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't really know about any other Pokemon. If you have some other Pokemon in mind, let me know in the comment section below. But I think that should be it. Or I guess there was one more item, Luminous Galette, but as far as I know, it works just like full heal, so you can heal your Pokemon, but in battle it doesn't have effect as an health item, so just use Berry and just disregard everything I just said. Oh, but this item, Weakness Policy, definitely the most significant one. Definitely diddly do, and I still haven't gotten myself a multi-scale Dragonite. I definitely want to get one because I want to try out Weakness Policy Dragonite because that sounds way too delicious. I definitely want to try it out. And yeah, but that being said, I just went through the list of all these items. We are in about 27 minutes, so I think I'm gonna be calling it an episode. And if you still have some questions you would like to ask me, let me know. I might make that some sort of Q&A episode possibly in the future. So I would like to have a bunch of episodes ready for that, because my original plan still was to possibly answer like one question at the end of the episode, but these are always just seem to be dragging on for too long. I just have too much to say, so there's no room for extra really to answer any questions at the end of these episodes. So yeah, I would kind of like to still make a Q&A episode. So yeah, again, leave some questions, and if you have some thoughts about these items, let me know in the comment section below. What do you think is your personal favorite Weakness Policy user? Let me know that, because Weakness Policy is definitely, out of all these items, it's the best item to have, besides the Megastones, which are really interesting in themselves. But out of all the other health items for all the Pokemon available, Weakness Policy, at least in my opinion, is the best item Generation 6 has to offer. And I cannot wait to try out a multi-scale Dragonite with it, because, yeah, again, it sounds so dangerous. So let me know about everything in the comment section below again. And thanks again for tuning in for another episode of Competitive Crunch. And I will see you guys next time. Until then, this is Spade signing out. Peace!